Tyranid Tervigons. Deep within the dark, she saw them, scuttling around outside. Always there were many, always together. They were killers, as much as she. But they had not come in. They had tried once, twice, 3 times. They had not tried again after that. But they did not leave. The first time, she took the head off the first 3 that came through the doors. 1 with a bite of her teeth, 2 more with her mighty claws. They quickly beat a retreat. The second time, they had tried to come from beneath. She had let them come in, then shot many with her spines, then charged in to take the last with her claws. Her rampage was swift and final. She belched psychic power down the hatch that they had come from, then dropped a segment of the roof on top of it, closing the entry point. The third time, she saw them try to get in through the windows. A rank of them exploded through the lower doors in unison, but again, she sent a scream of mental hate and poisonous spines at them. They tried for longer. She saw 50 of them come through in waves. Their small flashing guns singed her in places, but any attempt to concentrate fire on her was met with a psychic assault. Eventually, they stopped coming, but they had left plenty of biomass behind. She took rubble and things inside and placed them against the main ingress points, and she feasted. Deep did she sup and gulp and swallow of each and every edible given her in these 3 assaults. They moved around further away than before, covered all her ways out, so danger remained. They must be gathering their swarm to attack. So she, too, began to raise her forces. She could hear the hive mind still, but it was weak, distant. They had killed much of the swarm, yet she felt it here and there in patches, and she drew strength from it, and she ate, and she pushed. All along her body, starting at her head, the judder went down every muscle, every fibre of her long, bulbous body, until it dropped onto the floor. The night was long, her banquet of biomass plentiful, and she pushed again, and again, and again. She could see the first touch of red in the skies above her, as morning's first light moved across the city. They would be tired. She was now invigorated, a warlord once more. They would come. They disliked counterattacks. They ran. But such was true if she hid them while they were still gathering, slaughtered them piecemeal. So she called out. More were coming. She hissed, and there was silence. She could hear their wings, the wings of those coming, soon. But they will be killed by them, if not distracted. So she slowly raised herself up, taking direct control of the swarm, and her army ran. At the windows, doors, they burst through the defenses she had erected, and were spitting their hate, her hate, out at them, screaming. She came barreling through the largest door and retorted. Her scream was amplified by the hive. It swept from sound to ripple across reality, smashing all of the minds of them within a huge range. They fell. Their fire reduced. It pattered off her hide, and large shots were jumped in front of by her spawn. They charged into the defenders, some falling, but many more of them were dying. Above, the winged ones finally arrived. When in range, she took over their mines and launched them down at her enemies, those high but distant, firing the most dangerous threats to her. The winged ones screamed as one and fell on them from above. She stopped and turned into a building. She had taken biomass from them, who were killed by her swarm, and she pushed, and she pushed, and came out to join her swarm once more. Them had walked to this place in nice lines. Them were easy pickings, and she walked behind her children as they surrounded and slaughtered them. And she ate, and she pushed, and she ate, and she pushed some more. And the swarm grew. Them fired at her hive with fire from on high, but she now had more children than she started with those days before the tyrant was killed by the fast armored them. The flying ones carried her will to the swarm, and she broke her forces into many tendrils. Beneath, she sent them. She now controlled the place of smells and waste. She called again, and her song was stronger now, and more of hers came. The war beasts were hardest to dominate, but her young made her more powerful. The war beasts came and led the charges now, took down the highest walls, smashed the metal boxes of them. And she called again, and others of her kind, great mothers, joined in her song. As the day ended, the swarm sang her song as one now. The tyrant was dead, the Star Mother gone, or also dead. But she could not stop. She was. This, and nothing else. Like a program running. And she could hear the greater swarm. She would consume this world. Welcome, gentle listener, I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the factions, faces, and units of the Warhammer 40k setting, the grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. We also have channels for mythology and natural history, links in the description, and we now have super thanks, so like, subscribe, and throw me a coin if you enjoy the video more than usual, or Patreon of course. And now, a brief word from the sponsors of this video. 1 minute 3 seconds. Let's do this. Prepare yourself for a truly grimdark experience, for Warhammer 40,000 Warpforge is coming. A collectible digital card game that lets you explore the grimdark universe in all its glory, and it's free on Steam. And it has unique mechanics that make it growl like a chainsword and cut through boredom like a las cannon. Its dazzling graphics and superb voice acting are enough to make even the bald salivate. You can play as the Ultramarines, the Goth Clan, the Sautek Dynasty, the Black Legion, Craftworld Samhan, or even Hive Fleet Leviathan. Available for the first time in the demo. Speaking of which, now there will be a time-limited alpha demo until the 1st of June and a closed alpha starting on the 8th. All available on Steam. So hit the links in the description and get stuck in. Warhammer 40,000 Warpforge. Start playing today. Now, let us proceed. And today, we are to discuss possibly the most dangerous creature in the Tyranid hive swarms. Yes, you heard me. For a Carnifex may be horrific, a Lictor a bane, a hive tyrant an existential threat. There are feeder beasts of horrific effect to the unwary. The Tyrannifex can level tank columns or erode bastion walls. The Tervigon can burrow beneath the sands and earth, erupting behind enemy lines and bringing hordes with them. But this one creature outmatches them all, in my humble estimation. And not by a little bit, by leagues. So dangerous are they, that they are the cause of so many of the galaxy falling under Tyranid attacks, because they are the creators of the rank and file. And of course, I can only be speaking of the dreaded Tervigon. Now the Tyranid hive fleets shoot their spores down onto a planet when first they arrive, and amongst the first to make planetfall after sites are held are the Tervigons. These large synapse creatures are a threat like few others, for they are not merely just a command beast, but also a moving barracks. Most Tyranid attacks are spearheaded by tsunamis of smaller gaunts. They can overwhelm even hard targets in many attacks. But consider how deadly the lowly gaunt is to a civilian of near any race. Orc greenskins notwithstanding, of course. Waves of them hunt and exterminate any living being or animal, and they are perhaps of a limited threat to a space marine, but not to anyone else. And Tervigons, as I hope my little tale exposed, generate these tiny terrors in their thousands. But the Mama Nid is no slouch herself. Oh no. Perhaps not a frontline Nidzilla horror. She is still tough. Her carapace can deflect most attacks. Her bulk and regeneration can see her through most conflicts. For her little ones, the horde she not only sends out, but surrounds herself with, are unable to stop themselves from sacrificing their bodies for their mother. But of course, there is no maternal feeling, despite my chipper descriptions. They are bugs. Remember that. But a Tervigon is also a synapse beast of no small caliber. She hears and is a focal point for the redirection of the hive mind. And she is no slouch as a psychic combatant either, with various expressions of her psychic might drawn directly from the hive mind. She can crush brains with her screams, smite with lightning or other blasts, can augment her children or other Tyranids. She can make them faster, more deadly. And the shadow in the warp, that endless chatter from the hive mind that stupefies most human psychers, means she is always at a huge advantage. A scream amongst the whispers. And when you get in close with her, having had to hack or blast hundreds of her children to pieces, as they shoot, bite, rake, or charge at you, even then, she can use her mighty bulk. She is not as furious as a Carnifex, but her claws are no less powerful. She can smash through tanks, crush dreadnoughts, or behead elite units. She just needs a wee bit more time. But you have to deal with her psi attacks, all the while doing it. But, like most anything, she has an allergy to concentrated las cannon or melty action. Melty. You know it to be true. Let's do the stats thing, shall we? What is the Tervigon armed with, and how tough are they? She's as strong as a dreadnought, and as tough as a land raider. Her carapace protects her against most things. About 15 foot at the crest, perhaps more. She weighs in tons. Her spines may shoot faster, but they hit like heavy bolter rounds, and punch through even power armor at times. Her huge talons are fast enough and deadly enough to munch through space marines. She could gut a veteran unit in a moment if they came in cocksure, and all the while she channels the hive mind and blurts out more young. Although she may not give birth to gargoyles to complete the imagery, those flying gaunts, I feel she is the perfect representation of the activity filled by an aircraft carrier. She may be easy to spot, easy to catch, but you'll have to deal with everything she brings to the fight, and she won't go down easily. But she is also a command center for an army, the ranking vessel, a way to control an entire region, and a hammer blow when she goes at it. You send her in behind the front line, replenishing their attack on the move and in real time. Or you camp her and control an entire region through attrition, as she consumes and pushes out her young in their droves. And in earlier editions of the game, seeing 3 of them trundling up the board blurting out 3d6 gaunts around was trouser-filling and deeply funny. I hope they get their day intense, but I'll wait for the final drop before finding out properly. The Tervigon is the impossible foe, like the aircraft carrier. The fighters are causing havoc, so destroy their source. But to get to it, you have to fight through all of those fighters. The Tervigon has been lethal in attack, but also proved to be hellish in defense and wars of attrition, as has been seen in the Octaris sector, in their battles with the Orcs. They have become shrewd generals unto themselves, retreating after punishing battles, but replenishing themselves on the biomass eaten after the fray. The perfect analogue of necromantic armies. To fight them is to feed them more warriors. A cycle that leads to only two results. You exterminate every Tervigon in an attack, or you die. I call mine Tracy, and it's about time she came out to play in Tez. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. Now subscribe and like and all that stuff if you enjoyed the video. And join me every Friday as I take dives into the Warhammer universe. Or check out our other channels on natural history and mythology, links in the description. Patreon merch, notification button, you know the boogaloo. Until then, thank you for your precious time. And no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.